Visit nagrajhomes.com or call 858-880-4577. Nagraj Annaiah, selling homes smarter, faster, and for more.
Welcome, Bay Area. You are tuned into one and only real estate show where we break down all the ins and outs of the housing market. I'm your host, Nagraj Annaiah, your go-to Bay Area realtor. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Mal D. Khan. Mal is a senior consulting attorney at the Immigrant Legal Resource Center right here in San Francisco, specializing in immigration law and defense. Mal, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we are excited to have you, Mal. Like today, we'll be diving into the critical topic, Bay Area real estate and asylum. We'll be discussing legal rights, affordable housing options, and navigating the rental and buying process for those seeking asylum. If you have any questions during the show, give us a call at 408-912-5038, and we are live every Fridays at 6:30 p.m. and Sunday at 12:30 p.m. So don't miss out. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, Nagraj Annaiah's channel, do please subscribe for it. Well, today is very, very, very important, right? Like, what is asylum and who qualifies for it? Let's get started with that.
Okay, those are great questions. So asylum is this wonderful, wonderful form of relief for people who are in the United States. And it started after World War II, where all those millions and millions of people were killed and displaced. And the United Nations said, no, we can't do that again. So they created this form of relief called asylum. And that's what we use today in the United States. So asylum, if a person is granted asylum, they will eventually be eligible to get a green card and will eventually be eligible to become a US citizen. So it's an amazing form of relief. And then if they have family members, they can bring certain family members over to the United States while they have asylum. They don't have to wait years and years and years for a visa to become available.
Okay.
And while their application is pending, they qualify for a work permit. So once the application's been pending for 180 days, they can get a work permit. And that is a huge benefit for asylum seekers.
So just to repeat, listeners, we're talking about Bay Area real estate market and asylum. And myself, Nagraj Annaiah, I'm talking to immigration lawyer Mal Khan, who is an expert in the immigration and asylum stuff. If you have any questions on the Bay Area real estate or on the asylum, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. So touching on that, like basically for us within a 180 days, you can qualify for the legal permit. Is that correct?
You can qualify for a work permit.
Work permit.
Which gives you the opportunity to work legally in the United States.
Oh,
so
okay.
many asylum seekers are living here. They're working under the table illegally, but this gives them the opportunity to work legally, and they get many more benefits from that.
Okay. So one thing is like, who can't qualify for asylum? Like, is everybody can qualify for it, or somebody is barred qualifying for asylum?
It is a very limited form of relief, and it is very difficult to qualify. So I'm going to explain what you need to show. And if anyone thinks they qualify for asylum, I strongly, strongly recommend that they hire an attorney who's an expert on asylum to help them navigate the system. It's nearly impossible to get asylum without a really experienced immigration attorney at your side.
Okay.
So I'm working on a nonprofit, so I have no desire to get any clients. So I'm just really saying this is what you need.
I think that's a great thing about listeners. I'm talking to Merle. I forgot to mention that she's working on a nonprofit. She's here to share the information to you guys. So you can hire a qualified attorney where you can basically apply for the asylum thing. Okay. So it's like a lot of people. So who qualifies, Merle, like for this asylum?
So to qualify for asylum, a person has to show that they have been persecuted or face what's called a well-founded fear of persecution in their home country by either the government or a group that the government cannot or will not control. Now, when I'm saying the person's been persecuted, what I mean is they have to show that they've been wrongly imprisoned, subject to death threats, beaten, denied an education, denied the opportunity to work their land, denied the opportunity to purchase land. It's all these different things, or where people are just like subject to random violence by people, but it can't just be random violence. It has to be violence because they fall under one of 5 categories.
Okay. So listeners, you're listening to a real estate show from Nagraj Annaiah. I'm talking to legal expert Moel Khan on the asylum front. And if you have any questions, we are live on a Bali 92.3. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. And any questions on the family immigration, or like if you want like an illegal related immigration or anything on the Bay Area real estate market, this is a time to call, and we are live, and our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. So how do we prove, right? Like it usually takes a 5 to 10 years, or like what is a timeline?
It really varies. Right now, it can take a long time for these applications to be decided.
Okay.
But people do have a work permit while they're being decided. So that's a huge benefit. But as I mentioned, you have to show that you're being persecuted, but you have to show that you're being persecuted on account of one of 5 reasons.
Okay.
So you have to show that you're being persecuted either because of your race. So think, for example, of South Africa during apartheid, when the government was persecuting Black people, not allowing them to live in certain parts of South Africa, not allowing them to attend school, not allowing them to marry whomever they wanted. That was persecution on account of race.
Okay.
The second ground is religion. So remember, I mentioned that this started after the Holocaust. So think of Jews in Nazi Europe who are being put in concentration camps and extermination camps just because of their religion. That's another group that qualifies. The third group that qualifies, and I'm giving very extreme broad examples.
Just we are giving an listeners, we're just talking about who qualifies for the asylum.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you have any doubts and anything on that or anything on the Bay Area real estate, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. And we are discussing very important topic. How do somebody qualifies it? And so if you have anything to pitch in or if you have any doubts, you can give us a call. So basically it is like you are prosecuted for some reasons at your home country.
Right.
And second thing is a threat.
Right. And you have to show that's because of, in legal jargon, we call it the nexus, that the persecutor was persecuting you because of one of these 5 grounds. So the first ground I talked about was race. The second ground I talked about was religion. The third ground is called national origin. So again, that could be Jews in Nazi Europe during World War II. It could be indigenous people in Central America or South America who are being displaced from their lands. They would qualify on account of national origin. The third group is something that's very heavily litigated. It's called particular social group. So if you can show that you have been persecuted because you are a member of a particular social group, then you can get asylum. And the easiest example are members of the LGBT community, right?
Okay.
So if you are a member of the LGBTQ community and you can show that in your home country, members of the LGBTQ community are being persecuted, you can get asylum. For like example, for in Uganda just now, they passed a law saying that it is illegal to be gay and that you can get the death penalty for it. So those people would definitely qualify for asylum. Also, people
each country, based on the threats they have or based on the LGBT, as you said, so there are so many scenarios that needs to be basically talk to the expert attorney, having a consultation, so that to understand you qualify for an asylum.
Right.
But even I think who qualifies is a broader thing to can't even basically you can't say it in a one thing, but you should basically have a consultation. But there are a lot of job losses happening in the Bay Area. Correct. So after the job loss, can they apply for an asylum, or is it not a good thing to do it?
It can be a great thing to do. There is one more group, and that is people who have a different political opinion. So
Okay.
I've mentioned there are 5 groups, and the 5th one's political opinion, which is, if you're in the opposition party and the government's going to kill you because you're a member of the opposition, you qualify for asylum. So with asylum, you get huge benefits, but you can be put in removal proceedings. So it's something you have to really consider, like, is this something that you want to do? Because you can be placed in removal proceedings. That said, a person who's been here for a long time might have other forms of relief available to them that come up when they're in removal proceedings. So that's part of the reason you need to speak to an expert. But one of the things about asylum is that you have to apply within a year of your last entry to the United States.
Okay.
Or else you are permanently barred. But that bar does not apply to people who are here on non-immigrant visas, people who are legally here and are fully compliant with their non-immigrant visas. And then something happens in their home country, or they lose their job and they really can't go back because they're afraid they will be killed. They can apply for asylum. They simply have to apply for asylum within a reasonable period after losing their job.
Okay.
And there's a lot of cases that say a reasonable period is about 6 months.
Listeners, you are listening to Real Estate Show from Nagraj Annaiah, but I've brought in a different aspect today, the immigration aspect. Basically, we're talking about asylum, who can qualify for the asylum, and how can you apply for it. And we're going to talk about the housing options also, mortgage options also. If you have any questions on the real estate or the asylum, I'm Nagraj Annaiah talking to Mal Khan. We are talking on the various aspects. So if you have any questions, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. This is only a studio line numbers, will be active only for 6:30 to 7. And later, if you want to connect, I'll give out my number. Okay. One important question, right, Mal? Can asylum seekers qualify for a mortgage in the Bay Area, right? Like, because this mortgage is, especially Bay Area housing market is so tough, right? So in your aspect, do they have any restrictions?
Well, I'm not an expert on mortgages. I leave that to you.
Yeah.
I do know that people who are applying for asylum do have work permits. I don't know if that's sufficient to get a mortgage,
Yeah.
but after you've been granted asylum status, within a year, you can apply for your green card. And that's pretty easy to get. It goes pretty quickly relative to everything.
After you granted the asylum.
After granted asylum, which is hard, right? So it's hard to be granted asylum, but once you're granted, within a year after you're granted asylum, you can apply for your green card. And once you have your green card, then I leave it to you as to whether or not you qualify.
Okay. So to qualify for the mortgage, right? One is a valid work permit should be there. Right?
Okay.
So then the second is a credit history. While basically depends on how long they are running, how much credits they are having. The credit history matters for them. And the third important thing is the down payment. Correct. And the fourth is a debt to income ratio. So that also matters for them, like how much they're making, are they working in good companies, and how much they're making it. And one more important thing is like documentation, especially for the asylum thing, right? I-94 form and employment verification. And the lenders are like stricter requirements for non-permanent residents, like that's what we need to watch out. And interest rates, I think pretty much again depends on the lenders to lenders. I help a lot of asylum seekers, like they call me, they tell me, Nagraj, I want to buy a house. They're staying, as you said, they take years together to get a verdict on the asylum, right? Like in this process, it's been 6 years, 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
In this process, they need to buy a house because they already have the work permit now. Correct. I would suggest, depending on each case scenarios, we can work, and interest rates are pretty much the same. Correct. They are not like differentiated from the other people, but only thing is all comes down to credit score, how much they're making a money. Okay. And the third thing is like work permit, valid work permit. If they have all this, we can usually get them. They're not basically gone through strict, but they'll watch out for is the credit history and everything as the other applications. Listeners, you're listening to a real estate show from myself, Nagraj, and I am talking to Merle on the various aspects of the immigration, and we are basically talking today about the asylum, and we are discussing on the how even the asylum seekers qualify for the real estate if they want to buy in the Bay Area real estate. So if you have any questions, we have still 10 more minutes. And if you have any questions, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. So one important thing, right? Like more like so going back, if you're having a
Mhm.
valid work visa, can they still apply for asylum? Can it go parallelly?
Absolutely. So, and in fact, that's probably, if you can do that, that is a wonderful way to do it. So, I've had clients who were here on H-1B visas. Their visas were about to expire. They had a very, very strong asylum claim.
Mhm.
And so they filed for asylum while they were still in status. And the asylum application was adjudicated while they were in status. They had the opportunity to change their work permit from the H-1B to the regular work permit, but there was no need to. And then they got asylum, their H-1B status lapsed, which was fine. And then they got their green card and now they're a citizen.
So they can do a parallelly
Mhm.
together, right? And so one important questions would basically is like affordable housing options available in the Bay Area. Does they have any other affordable housing like options for the asylum people or the asylum seekers?
Well, people who are granted asylum are given federal benefits, a lot of federal benefits. And there are resettlement agencies within Northern California that help them. So there are resettlement agencies like Jewish Family Services of Santa Clara Valley will help people find housing. They'll help with teaching English as a second language classes. They'll help with career finding.
Mhm.
And even though they're called Jewish Family Services, they are non-sectarian. So they will represent anyone who comes to them and needs help.
So basically, they can get this all the subsidized housing, Section
Mhm.
8 vouchers, non-profit housing, correct?
Right.
But only thing is what I notice is like it's very tough in this Bay Area real estate market because you can't get anything for 500K or a 600K. In South Bay, of course, maybe if you go further away, maybe if you go to Manteca or maybe further away from maybe a Lathrop or like even if you go to a Stockton, okay, you might get it for 300K, 400K. Okay, so they can still buy a houses there, but only thing is getting into the coupons or vouchers, it might be a tough. I think because it's a long queue, as you said.
Mhm. It takes years. And COVID did not help.
COVID didn't help, but only good thing about that option is asylum is like you get within a 6 months
Within 6 months, you get a work permit,
work permit.
and that can change people's lives.
That's very good option, right? But one thing, tell me one thing, like for example, you got a 6 months, you got a work permit.
Mhm.
But can they still apply for the regular visas? Like, for example, can they go back and apply for the regular visas?
Um,
It's a very tough question.
yeah, I don't really think they can because they would likely be out of status. I mean, if someone were here on an H-1 and applied for asylum and then wanted to switch over to a different status, that would be fine as long as they were in current immigration status.
Okay.
So as long as their immigration status is current, then they can apply for a different visa. But once they get asylum, they're here, but it's a gray zone as to whether or not they're here legally and can apply for a different visa.
Okay. I think, see, one more thing is like the challenges they face, especially the asylum seekers face in the competitive Bay Area market, right? Like,
Mhm.
I think we discussed on this part, like, but do you have any experiences like what is the competitive this asylum seekers face?
I'm sorry, what?
Like for example, in case of the housing market, right, for the asylum seekers, right,
Uh-huh.
like basically they'll be having needs to have the down payments to buying the house. Right. That's the main thing. Listeners, I'm myself Nagraj Annaiah talking to Merle Khan, and basically we're talking about the Bay Area real estate and asylum. Who qualifies for the asylum? And if anything on the Bay Area real estate, we still have a 5 minutes left in the show. If you have any questions, you can give us a call. Our studio line numbers are 408-912-5038. And so going back to the one more question, right? What are the long-term housing goals like for asylum seekers? Like, is they want to do a renting versus buying, staying in the Bay Area?
It depends on the person. Most people want to be near their family and near their community. So wherever their family and community is, most people want to buy a house to have that stability. These are people who have lost everything and have faced severe upheaval, and they want stability more than anything. And they want to be near family. They want to be near their community.
Yeah, because see, one thing they can be facing is like if they've just recently moved in, right? The one thing they'll be doing is like renting or staying with their family. But when once they stay in the longer term, the buying might be the best option for them because instead of paying the rent, but for that one goes back to the again how much they're making a money. The second thing is like the down payment options, right? And the third one is the credit scores, or like how much, for how many years they have the credit and everything. Okay, these are the three things, especially when they're doing it. And one more challenge they may be facing is like staying in the Bay Area. Is it for them is works out or like relocating?
Mhm. Yeah, I had one client who got asylum and then became a US citizen.
Mhm.
And the day that she bought her house was like the proudest day of her life. She had faced so much um, upheaval in her life and faced so much persecution and so much harm. And she was able to create this home for her family. And that was huge for her.
Okay, are there any resources available to overcome the challenges they're facing for the asylum seekers? How about the organizations and community support, legal aid?
Right. So the as I mentioned before, Jewish Family Services is a resettlement agency, and they provide those services. A lot of asylum seekers have suffered severe trauma, and they need a lot of psychological help. Some have been tortured, and they need physical help. So it's, you know, the immigration attorney can provide one part of the piece, right? They can help you get a green card and stay here, but it takes the entire community to help someone fully integrate.
Correct. So, listeners, this is a just as just about the asylum. Basically, our show is like to give you so various aspects. Like, for example, if somebody is asylum seekers wants to buy a house, how they go for it, and somebody is like lost their job, what are their other alternatives? Go for it. So it's just a gist we want to talk about. We wanted to give you. So if you have any further questions on anything on the immigration or like anything on that, you can talk to Merle, and she can basically give out her email ID, or she can give out her contact number if she is willing, or like you can reach out to her. And you can she runs in a non-profit organization. She's so Merle, if somebody wants to reach out, what's the best way to connect with you?
Probably my personal email address would be the best. It is merle.kahn@gmail.com. It's my name.
Yeah, Merle, merle.kahn@gmail.com. So do you charge anything for the consultations, or how is it?
I don't handle consultations because I'm at a nonprofit at this point, but I would be happy to refer people to immigration attorneys who do in fact do this work.
Yeah, listeners, thank you so much, Mal. I think listeners, if you have any questions on the Bay Area real estate, right, you can give me a call after the show. It's easy to connect. Go to nagrajhomes.com, click on a WhatsApp icon, and you can basically connect with me. And if you want to buy or sell a house in the Bay Area, you know where to reach out. And one more thing, all these shows are uploaded in my YouTube channel. And if you're not subscribed to it, do subscribe for the lot of insightful informations on the Bay Area real estate. And thank you so much, Mo.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.